Okay, remember the story I did a couple of weeks ago about the Seattle police officer that killed the pedestrian when she was crossing the crosswalk? Well, we got some We got some questions are being answered after the woman was hit and killed by the SPD vehicle. In January, an officer responding to what went out as a priority call, one call, a woman was hit in the crosswalk while the officer was driving to the call. Okay, let's get to it.
It's now been 2 weeks since a Seattle police officer hit and killed a woman, and we have some answers about that night, but we're still no closer to understanding how this could have happened.
Yeah.
And now as the investigation unfolds, a police accountability group is raising questions about some of the department's policies.
Fox 13's Anna Kim has more on the questions that the group wants answered. So what are they asking tonight? So Jamie and David, that they are asking for specific policies that may have contributed to the death of Janavi Kandula. The Seattle Community Police Commission is one of 3 city police oversight bodies. The commission tells us it sent letters to the police department and fire department last week seeking more information. On January 23rd, Kandula was crossing the street in the South Lake Union neighborhood when she was hit by Officer Kevin Austin Dave. We know Kandula was in a marked crosswalk at the time, and Officer Dave was on his way to help Seattle Fire at a potential overdose nearby. 1 week after the incident, we heard from Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz for the first time. He released a statement that gave us some more insight into that night.
He did have his emergency lights on and was clearing intersections with his siren. As is protocol, a drug recognition expert responded to the collision scene and found no evidence of impairment in the officer. I also want to be clear about the
department says Officer Dave is certified as an emergency medical technician. He stopped to render aid to Kandula after she was hit. She was taken to Harborview Medical Center, where she later died from her injuries. One of the biggest questions still is, which the department hasn't answered, is how fast the officer was going at the time Kandula was hit. The CPC says they want a closer look at policies for responding to different kinds of calls.
We're not prejudging this. We don't know what their training is with respect to their emergency response policies. If you look at the Seattle Police Manual, the information relative to emergency response is relatively vague and thin compared to other areas of the manual. And that was one of the reasons we wrote the letter. We want to know how the Seattle Police Department is training their officers on emergency response, what their duty to render aid is in such circumstances, and to fill in the gaps that are apparent in the manual that's public.
Now, it's important to note any serious traffic collision on city streets, whether officer involved or not, is investigated as a potential criminal matter by the Traffic Collision Investigation Squad. In addition to speed, they'll be looking at things like lines of sight, lighting, and body camera footage. Their report will be provided to the King County Prosecutor's Office, who will then decide if any charges will be filed. From there, it will go to the Office of Police Accountability. Then after the investigation wraps up, the CPC will get to conduct a review and see if there are any additional policies that need to be reenacted. We will continue to stay on top of this story, and as it develops, of course, we'll bring you updates here on air as well as online.
There's a couple questions as well, too, I think in my mind. Number one, how fast was he going? Number two, was he aware of his surroundings, or was he relaying back to the dispatch and, playing on his computer and talking to, the walkie-talkie or the intercom, thing like that, and not paying attention to the road and the speed as well? It was a priority 1 call, but still, that woman should have died. She was crossing in the crosswalk, in the crosswind zone. It's unfortunate, but questions need to be answered. We just can't brush and say, she died, it's unfortunate. No, it's called, the thing about cops like this, they're held to a higher standard. And it's called accountability and transparency. Anyways, I'm out of here, my job. Peace out.